Welcome to a special edition of Crawford County Outdoors. I'm Duane and we're joined by Brenda Costa today from the French Creek Valley Conservancy. So what's that over our shoulder there?
So this is our Smock Riverwalk property.
Awesome. Okay, so this is in the 5th Ward, and for years and years and years, I played softball down at the fields, just down at the corner there, and I didn't know there was stuff. I didn't know there was stuff like that back here.
So this property was donated to the Conservancy in 1998.
Oh, okay.
From Chuck Smock. The property is about 6 acres in size, and he was really hoping that it would be utilized by people for public recreation. He wanted people to hang out and enjoy this property, but still protect this riparian area along French Creek.
Now let me ask you a question. I brought my bug spray along, so we're going to be. It looks like kind of tight. Is there bugs and mosquitoes and ticks and that kind of stuff?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to spray my neck. I'm going to spray my knees. I'm going to spray my arms, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me do that now.
I always advise that. I'm one of those people that gets the giant mosquito bites, so I usually have some spray on. It's always a good idea to put some spray on, either something like that, or I use a natural product that's like geranium and citronella oil. But always check yourself once you get home after being in the outdoors. There's lots of opportunity to get ticks, and so it's good to check yourself and your pet.
And now I mean, with the weather changing now, there's been a lot more. I've been picking ticks off my dogs. You know, even in hunting season when it's cold. You know, I'm still picking ticks off the dogs there, which is very. I never thought that was, you know, because it's like, do I need to still put the spray on me in November when I'm out, you know, pheasant hunting, whatever?
Right.
And the answer is yes now.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah, definitely check yourself. The vet, we have a dog, and our dog has had some tick-borne illnesses, and she said all seasons are tick seasons now, and so it's important to check yourself and your pet.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so now there's still some development going on this trail, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to see. Now it looks like this part has been like, you know, just managed here.
Yep.
So
we're working on it.
So as we're going along, we'll be able to see some development. But this is like, I mean, I would like to encourage people to come out, you know, down the road. This is a great place to walk. You know?
Absolutely. So this property was acquired in 1998, and there was a trail that was put in about 2000.
Okay.
But the trail really kind of fell into disrepair, and so now we want to revitalize it. We want more people to visit this property. We have a boat launch further down that the Catalano family donated funds for. We want this to be a property that people want to visit, and we want it to reflect positively on this 5th Ward part of Meadville. So we're excited to get more people to visit
now
here.
When you and I 2 years ago, when we did our float down, you know, our kayak paddle, we went from the cat launch.
Yes,
we went
did.
from the cat launch and went down to the Ernst Trail, you know, down the Ernst Trail place there, and that was awesome. That was really fun.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a bunch of people since then, and they're like, "What do I do for exercise? Because I don't have a kayak, I don't have a canoe." And it's like, well, go hike the trail. You know,
that's right.
And so I mean, that was my point. You know, calling you about this is like, hey, how about let's encourage people to come out.
Right. And this is a great place that if you wanted access to fish, it's easy to access the creek here.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is open to the public. We want people to enjoy it. We're working on the trail. We're going to have some new signs, and the trail will end up being a quarter mile or so when it's finished. And ultimately, we'd like to be able to connect it to the trails that are over in the Lincoln Avenue ball fields.
Okay.
So to try to expand opportunities for people to get out here and walk around.
So now we talked about this before, but it's like when you're going to be hiking on the trail, you want to be cautious and like not like trip over stuff and all that kind of stuff. Let me ask you a different question. I was out taking the dog out for a run the other day, and we went out to Woodcock, and the apple trees, typically the apples start falling like mid to late September or something. The apples are falling now. Like, what the heck's going on with the weather? It's like everything's wacky now. You know, it's like everything's wacky now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been a really strange summer for us with really high temperatures and pretty dry. On this property, what's kind of odd is we have some invasive species of plants growing here. We have the Japanese knotweed that gets really tall, and it can block out your view of French Creek. So we've tried to do some invasive species management out here.
Okay.
We've planted some new native trees. While we're walking along, you might see some tree tubes where we've put in some native trees. We're trying to close out the sunlight, because the sunlight is what makes those invasive plants grow. So trying to reestablish the canopy. But so we are doing a little active management on this property for those kind of
I remember when we were going down the creek, you were telling me about those invasive plants.
Yeah.
And they just the whole side of the creek there was just covered with the,
Yeah, hard to manage.
So do we have to worry about like multiflora rose or anything like that in this part, or no?
So we've brush hogged this, so we aren't picking our way through stuff, but there's definitely multiflora rose on this property. That's another invasive species that we deal with here. But when all's said and done, this trail is going to be pretty wide and should be clear of vegetation.
I've told that story before, but my least favorite thing in the world is multifloral rose, because it's not like it just scratches you, but it's like it hooks, and then the hooks like break off in your skin. You know? So it's like having splinters, you know, and everything. And so it's like if you see it, and it's like the little bitty flowers, almost looks like, you know, little baby, you know, rose petals, you know, kind of thing. Just stay away from it. I mean, you know, just steer clear of it.
Yeah.
So, okay, we were ready to take off.
We're ready to go.
Let's do it. Okay, Brenda. So the Smock's Riverwalk. So, can you give us a little history there?
So the property was donated to the Conservancy in 1998 by Charles Smock. My understanding is he was part of the Smock Heating and Plumbing family of Smocks. I don't know all the family history, but I believe it was donated in honor of his parents. And this sign greets you when you come to our trail, but pretty soon this will be replaced. There'll be a new large sign with our updated French Creek Valley Conservancy logo. And then some information, a map of the trail, and a little bit more about the property here and why it's important to protect this part of French Creek.
Okay. Well, let's hit the trail.
All right.
Okay. Wow, there's a telephone pole. How about that?
So much of this trail already existed. It was part of this trail that was established back in about 2000. So a lot of the footprint is still the same.
Multifloral rose.
Multifloral
okay,
rose.
right there.
Can't avoid it.
My least favorite thing in the world. Okay.
Yeah. But so, I mean, the trail, we have made some modifications to where it goes, just so that we lessen the erosion that might happen. We wanted to be sure we weren't cutting down more trees. You know, we're trying to reduce the impact we have on this property.
Because you want to keep the trees intact, so it's keeping the mud from going in the creek,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this entire
there's somebody
property
floating down right there. Yeah, kind of. That's not unusual, I guess. But
I wish we were doing that today.
Okay.
We'll do that again another day, Duane.
He's fishing. Okay.
Nice.
How about that? French Creek is not a place where there's not a lot of fish, right?
No, there are a lot of fish in French Creek. I think the count now is that we think there's more than 90 species of fish.
Oh my! Wow.
In French Creek, quite a few,
That's
you know, larger game fish, panfish, but then also some really little fish that are really very important.
Okay.
We have a lot of these darters that are the small perch species, but they are absolutely critical in freshwater mussel reproduction.
Okay.
So it's really important for us to have them here as well.
When I was out at Woodcock, we were talking about their 50th anniversary, which I had it wrong. It's their 51st anniversary. It was the 50th anniversary when they filled up the lake, but it was the 51st anniversary when they built the dam. and I'm talking to them about me out. I had built a kayak paddle, which I made one for you.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
I had made one for myself, and I'm out paddling with it, and a big walleye jumped right beside me.
Oh my gosh.
It was like 3 feet long. I mean, it was this giant walleye.
Yeah.
And so, are there walleye in French Creek? Or?
Oh, sure there are.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Not necessarily in this section of French Creek. The part that borders this property here is usually pretty shallow.
Okay.
But you never know. So this is the unfinished part right here. We have a little gap in our trail here. You may have noticed there's
Looks
this
like
really large
good-sized tree down there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when the Conservancy acquired this property, it was still standing, but apparently someone made a fire inside the tree and weren't trying to burn the tree down, but started like a little campfire in the tree, which really weakened it, and eventually it did fall.
That's a huge tree.
Yeah.
Boy, that is really big. That looks like it's like 4 feet across right here.
Really old growth.
I can't tell what kind of wood that is, but boy, that's a big tree.
So all of the trees and the plants along here are really important. This is what we call the riparian buffer. These are the trees and the plants along the banks of French Creek that help keep the banks in place.
Okay.
So it's important that these natural spaces are protected because they stabilize the bank, they help filter water when there's a lot of rain, they serve a lot of environmental services is what we call it, but it's critical to have these places along French Creek that are natural and stabilized and are not developed. So
now, I asked you this question before.
Yeah.
But it's the inside of the bend is not where the erosion happens on the outside of the bend of the creek, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The outside is called the
But you still want to have trees on both sides.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Because anytime when there's high flow, whether it's inside, out of a bend, straight away, you're going to have increased erosion. So it's really important to have the riparian buffer to hold the banks in place. But this is also great habitat.
Sure.
Lots of birds, lots of animals live within these riparian buffers.
Okay. Yeah, I own some property up in Warren County, and what's the name of that creek? It was the creek of the year a couple of years before French Creek was the river of the year. Is it Conalongo? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it could be.
It's what drains Chautauqua Lake down into the Allegheny River.
Oh,
That's the creek up there.
Uh-huh.
And thankfully, I'm on the inside of the bend.
Yes.
So my property's not getting smaller every year.
Right, you're not losing real estate. You might be gaining, sure.
I have gotten a few deer up there, so it was nice hunting grounds and everything. But it's like the main thing up there is I built a barn so we can park our pontoon boat up there that we have over at our family cottage over at Canadota. So
nice.
Well, this isn't too bad. The thorns do exist, but they're not sticking out too much here.
No, we've cleared this pretty well. It's definitely going to need some maintenance, and that was one of the issues when the original trail was put in about 25 years ago.
Okay.
You can't put a trail in and not put effort into maintaining it. So
now, is this sand that we're walking on here?
It's actually a really fine limestone.
Limestone.
It's not a sand. Okay. It's a finer grade of limestone, but. So this will
It doesn't feel like we're walking on the beach. It feels kind of sturdy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna tamp this down some.
It'll pack down.
Yeah.
Oh, deer tracks.
Yep.
Look right there, deer tracks.
Yeah.
How about that?
So they're using the trail. I've definitely seen deer over here before. So
I wanted to ask you a question that we talked about the last time we were hiking the trail. You do not want four-wheelers and motorcycles and stuff
absolutely
out
not.
On the trail.
Nope.
Because this is public property, but it's not property for
running
a four-wheeler.
It's not public property. It's our private property that's open to the public. And so we limit the activities and the use that can take place here, and four-wheel vehicles, automatic vehicles, are not permitted here.
Okay.
This is for passive recreation, so you can walk, you can bring your dog out here, you can come and bird watch, you can access the creek to paddle or to fish.
I mean, we're literally right at the creek.
We're right here.
You can come down here and fish, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome to, but no four-wheelers.
Don't bring your four-wheeler.
Please
don't.
All
right. Okay. Whatever that deer was doing, boy, it liked the trail too.
Yeah, he's
walking right down the trail. Here's its tracks going.
Came to see what was going on. Well, we were over here for a few days making noise with a tractor, so the deer was probably really glad we were gone.
Hiding somewhere and watching.
Yeah.
And now that the tractor's gone, he's coming back. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So sometimes people will see a property like this that belongs to us, and they think that it's just overgrown, and so they can dump stuff or do whatever they want. And that's really been a problem for us. We don't want people to think that when we have these properties that are natural spaces, that doesn't mean that we're not taking care of them. the goal is to keep it as a natural space. So it's not intended to be a manicured park, but we do want people to come out here and see what the native plants look like and experience the creek and fish and walk around and see what birds they'll find out here.
When you and I were going down the creek, I was asking you this question. It's like all of a sudden you go under a bridge and you're, going through past, all kinds of construction companies and, industries and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden it seems like you're out in the middle of the jungle,
Yep.
And the same here.
Yes.
The same thing here.
Yeah, there's a lot of times that this property is really very, very quiet, and we are still within the city limits.
I see a house over there, so we're not too far from some houses.
Not far from Wadsworth Avenue, but it can be really quiet and peaceful in here.
And
here
even
you can see some of the...
if you live in that neighborhood, this is a great place to come out for a walk.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. We want people in the neighborhood to use it as well as have people visit from outside the area.
Okay.
You can see some tree tubes here. We've put some trees in spots that maybe were over widened or they could use a tree or two to fill in a spot. So
I came out with you guys when you were down over by what's that road over there? Mercer Pike? And we were putting in trees, and I brought my post hole digger.
Oh yes,
and it like swung on something. It knocked the spark plug thing loose.
Gosh.
I got it fixed.
Yeah,
good. So down the road, if we need it again,
that's great.
Okay, it's gotta work.
Yes, that was at our brace preserve.
There we go.
And it was pouring rain. We were planting trees and pouring rain.
And the thing caught on something, and it's like spun and then banged into something.
Right.
And I'm like, and it's like it shut down. I was like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
And here I was able to get it to the maintenance people over at Sagertown Hardware, and they were like, "Oh, it broke the spark plug."
Good.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm glad it was fixable.
So it wasn't a big issue. It wasn't a big deal.
Good.
So is this the Joe Cat launch here?
So this is our Joe Cat launch.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this is a launch that was paid for by the Catalano family in memory of Joe Catalano. He grew up here in the 5th Ward and loved French Creek, spent a lot of time here. And so as a memorial, the family raised the funds and paid to have this launch put in here.
Awesome. And this is where we took off for our float down there.
That's right.
And that was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice because there's a couple of other launches not too far from here. So if somebody's just starting out, if they're new to kayaking, they could put in here and take out at Bicentennial Park. That would be a short, easy starter trip.
Okay.
Or you could go a little longer from there. But it's a great access point. Ooh, there's a bug on me.
There's a bug on your chin. Oh, it fell into your shirt. There you go. Okay, now it's gone. Okay. So there's a bunch of launches, along on both sides of the creek.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when we were doing the French Creek cleanup interview, we were down by the park,
Yes.
and doing that one, and that's that. So, and it's not like anyone's like really hard to get into, and everyone's really hard to get out of or whatever.
Right.
They're all, you can kind of just go. However, whichever one you want to hit.
Yeah, this is not a drive-in launch. This is a carry-in launch. So you park out off Wadsworth Avenue and you carry your boats in here. But this is really easy to get in and out.
Okay.
This is a simple spot. Again, if you're a new boater, this might be a good place to start out.
Okay.
Some launches, there's maybe a bigger drop-off at the end or faster-moving water. But this is a pretty easy place to start. So we welcome people coming to use the launch.
Now, you and I had this conversation before. When you go down to French Creek, it's like July, end of June, July, first part of August or whatever. It's like the creek is kind of low and whatever, but then it starts coming back up. It's nice and plenty of water in it, in maybe April and May and the beginning of June.
Yeah.
And then starting maybe September or whatever in October. So is this looking real low now? I mean, it looks a little bit low to me, but not too bad.
I didn't check the gauge today. I think this looks like you could definitely get a kayak through here. Canoeing's always a little more difficult. You need a little more water for that. We've had some really dry, hot days this summer, so there's been some days that the water's been very low. People can always check the water level online. We can talk more about where that information is, but we always caution people too to think about the water temperature.
Okay.
It's real tempting to go in April if there's a sunny day, but if the water's still 45 degrees, probably not a day to get on the water.
If you just happen to fall out of your boat and you're in the water that's 45 degrees, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all.
You should always be prepared to accidentally get wet.
So May and June is a good time. September and October is a good time because the water's not that cold at that point, right?
That's right. There's been years that I've even paddled into November. You got to have the appropriate gear, but we are having warmer fall as we get into the late seasons of the month. So you may still be able to get out of the water that time of year.
And it's like maybe end of June, July, August, whatever. There's not that much rain. There has been some rain this year, but there's not that much rain. But then the rain starts coming back in the fall.
Yeah.
So the water level comes up, so you're not going to have to get out and walk and drag the boat over, a bunch of gravel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And there are sections of French Creek up towards Cambridge Springs. There are some really deep sections that you could probably paddle year round, or the full paddling season when it's warm enough, because that's a much deeper section of the creek. When you get down here, we're more shallow, and so we have some of these July, August days that you might be scraping bottom if you're out in your boat.
I remember several times having to get out and walk and drag the boat coming down the creek there. So.
Yeah, we always joke about you should eat a light lunch. You want to float a little higher in the water so you don't have to scrape on the bottom and get out.
The first time we did the trip down the creek, we went from Cambridge Springs down to Venango there, and like you said, that was deep the whole time.
Yeah.
I forget, did we do that in June? I think we did that in June.
I think so.
That was.
I think so.
And that was really deep the whole time. There was like no flat bottom any place.
Right, right. And it's slow moving. So it's a lot of paddling there, and people need to understand that. Sometimes folks want to get on the creek and they're like, well, we'll go from point A to point B, but they don't realize how many curves and meanders there are in between, how slow the water's moving. Sometimes it can take a lot longer than you think. But we have a lot of information on our website about paddling on French Creek, so folks can get information there.
Okay. Now, is there more of the trail going here?
So
do we want to try a little bit?
The plan for the trail, we can walk a little bit down here. This is to the north end of the Joe Cat launch here. This is part 2. This is what we'll be doing going forward. We've already brush hogged a good bit of this, but so the trail continues up towards the northern property line. And as I said, we're real close to the Lincoln Avenue ball fields and that network of trails as we get to the north end of our property here. So we'd love to be able to connect into that so people would have a longer trail network to use.
Now, the place you and I went and we hiked last year, that's called the Brock's Lookout, is that right?
Yes.
And so you and I are talking, and a train comes past.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, I don't think anybody can hear us talking now.
Yeah.
We're gonna hold up for a little bit.
Yeah.
So now here, the train is on the other side of the creek from here, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. There hasn't been a train come past, so it hasn't messed up our talking.
No,
okay.
No, and I don't know how often that train goes by, but I guess this is the quieter side of the creek.
Now it looks like, does it go in 2 directions right here? Does it?
No, it continues off to the right. This is just an area where we were staging some stuff.
Okay.
It curves around here. The original trail went up straight ahead there. But
those are some pretty good sized trees, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But so, there was some erosion happening over there. And so we're trying to reroute around here so we're not encouraging erosion on the trail.
Now, is this part of the trail going to get that limestone also?
It is.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
It'll all be resurfaced eventually.
This really isn't a bad walk. This is a great walk.
Yeah, it's lovely. And when it all gets resurfaced, it'll be a nice place for folks to come out and relax. And we don't have any picnic tables or anything. As I said, it's not developed as a park, but you certainly could bring your blanket out. And
baby frog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aw.
Okay, how about that?
Folks can just come out and enjoy the property.
I was over with my friends. We were babysitting their dog, and they have a pool, so we were using the pool. And a frog jumped into the pool. So I got that net that you fish out leaves with on fish.
Yeah.
I fished out the frog and threw it out in the yard. Yeah.
So, whoops. So this is about as far as we're going to go here, but the utility right-of-way here, where the power lines are, so this is the end of our property, and it would be about 300 feet for us to go a little further down to connect into the Lincoln Avenue ball field and that trail complex. So ideally,
the ball fields are right over there.
Yeah, right over there. Okay. Yeah. So I'm hoping this is also the city boundary.
Oh, okay.
So okay. This is a township and city and landowner puzzle that we need to figure out.
So going through all that stuff is complicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would be great. I mean, if we could connect these up, and then people would have more area to hike and walk around and explore.
I played softball over there for decades, and then I had my shoulder dislocated.
Oh.
I slipped on the ice, caught myself on my left hand, and dislocated my shoulder, and I ended up having to have surgery to patch it back up or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like the doctor said, don't be putting your hand up above your head, you know. So it's like, so that was the end of softball.
That was the end of softball, right?
So, and I miss it. I really miss it, because I played for probably 30 years over there, something like that. That was great. That was great.
Well, it would be great if now you could go walk the trails.
Yeah, right.
At least go out and visit.
Now we're in the neighborhood. Okay.
That's right. So we want to walk back and
let's do that.
Visit the Joe Cat launch site.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, I didn't mention about this being funded by the Crawford Heritage Foundation.
Oh,
so I should
that's great.
say that.
Okay. Well, Colin just grabbed me there.
Yeah.
I made it a point to wear my compression socks today, just in case there was any little low thorns, and so they didn't scratch up my shins.
Right.
There. Plus, I like the compression socks when I'm out taking a walk or a hike, or taking the dogs out for a run or whatever, because it kind of like tightens up your your arches, so that your feet don't get real worn out and everything. And so I always wear them.
I just wore them on a really long plane flight.
Oh, okay.
Sit still for too long on an airplane.
I ordered different size ones, and the smaller ones don't come all the way up my legs, so it's like I just gave them to my wife so she can use them, because she has the same issues, So it's like, here, you take these ones, I'll take the larger ones.
It was really pretty down here this morning. The sun was just coming over, and
I bet.
The air temperature is colder than the water in the morning, and so all the mist coming off the creek is really pretty.
Okay. So there was actual mist.
There was actual mist.
Okay.
Really pretty.
I see the train tracks on the other side of the creek over there.
Yeah. Yeah, and
no trains come past us, so we're good to talk. Okay.
This is that Japanese knotweed that unfortunately flourishes in spaces where it gets a lot of sunlight.
It takes off.
So that's part of our strategy to plant trees and re-establish the tree cover here.
So to get rid of that stuff, do you have to dig it up, or do you have to? What do you?
It is really hard to eradicate. Cutting it actually makes it multiply.
Oh, geez.
It's really hard to manage. It's best managed with herbicides.
Okay.
And part of the problem, though, is that as soon as we do something about it here, seed stock from upstream will wash down, and
it's going to come back.
It'll reestablish. So we put a lot more energy into dealing with multiflora rose than we do Japanese knotweed.
And there's one right there.
Yep.
There's a multiflora rose right there.
Yep.
I think I told you that story. There was a thing on the news one time that they had a bunch of goats, and they sort of put fences around them, and they ate the multiflora rose.
Yes.
And it's like, how do they eat that stuff?
Yeah.
How do they eat that?
They did that out at the Erie National Wildlife Refuge. They were doing invasive species management.
I can't imagine any creature eating that.
I know.
Eating that stuff.
You got to be desperate to eat that, but they do a great job. The problem with using goats is that they don't discriminate, so they will eat
anything,
native plants as well as
they'll
your
eat the healthy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to be careful what your management strategy is after they come through and eat everything.
Okay, this looks familiar.
Yep.
This is where we started our trip last year.
Yeah, and we're going to install sort of an educational panel here that's going to show you a map of the French Creek Water Trail. We are also putting up some mileage markers, so when people are paddling along the creek, they know where they are. We hear from local EMS that sometimes people don't know where they are, and they call for help because they panic. They're not sure.
Like me telling you, it's like all of a sudden you're like out in the jungle,
yes.
And you're not sure exactly where you are.
Yeah.
So having that up, that's going to be a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. So we're looking forward to getting some of those installed, but we just want to be able to provide more information here where people are getting onto the creek so that they have safety information and navigation information, and they don't get lost, and it ends up being an enjoyable day.
I know when I go to my friend's house for hunting season down in Utica, there's a sign there that says French Creek Community Treasure.
Yes.
It's like, it sure is.
It sure is. Yeah, and we're thrilled. The work we're doing on this trail right now is funded by a grant from the Crawford Heritage Community Foundation.
Okay.
So we are really grateful to have community support for our efforts, our projects to get more people to have fun and recreate in the area and on French Creek.
And helping the community treasure.
That's right.
Okay. Well, Brenda, thanks for the hike here today. That was awesome.
Yep.
Okay, Chef Lisa has a recipe, and she's going to work on that. So stick with us. We'll be coming up next. Well, joining us now, Chef Lisa Beck. So Lisa, the Smock's Riverwalk, that was a blast. It was funny. It's still kind of under development,
right?
And so they had like some of the briars were still kind of sticking in as we were walking,
sure.
and everything. It wasn't terrible, but they had it almost was like sand.
I was gonna say like cinder, yeah.
But it's like like limestone all crushed up, and it's gonna make a beautiful place to walk.
That's great.
So I mean that was just awesome. That was really fun.
All what they're doing here, it's fantastic for our community. So we're really lucky to have that.
So what was your idea for a recipe today?
So we're going to do a family fave. I say that a lot because, I cook a lot, but it is one that's easy. You typically have these ingredients in your home, fast. You could make it the night before if you had to, but it is a venison tater tot casserole. You could use chicken.
Wow. Okay.
You could use ground turkey.
Okay.
You could use ground pheasant. You can use ground beef. We're using ground venison today. Okay. So, pretty simple. We've got our tater tots. We've got some things to mix in our meat. But I'm going to take a pound of ground venison. I'm going to have you.
Want me to start browning it?
Yeah. If you would, we've got the pan going.
Okay.
And it won't take long. While you're doing that, I'm going to spray an 8.5 or 9 by 11, whatever that is, dish And we have our oven turned on, preheating to 375.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just gonna give this, I usually let you do the honors of this, but you're busy, so I'll take over. Just give it a good spray. I love this recipe. If you like tater tots, it's a great way to use them.
Yeah, right.
So,
and we're not too far from hunting season here, so there might gotta be more venison showing up.
that's right. And you know, we're getting, you wouldn't expect us to, but we're getting close to the bottom. So I'm excited. The guys are getting excited. The trail cameras are out. The food plot's in.
Okay.
You know, we did have a storm and some of the apple trees got knocked over.
Oh no.
Yeah, but they were able to put them back up. Hopefully they'll make it. But they're scouting out the woods already. So
I was telling Brenda as I was out just a couple days before she and I were out hiking on the trail that I was over at Woodcock with Butch, and apples were just laying all
everywhere.
over. It's like, why are they coming down like a month and a half early?
Everything's early. My tomatoes are early. My zucchini was early. Everything is early. Yeah.
Is that, you think that's because it's so hot this year? I was kind of wondering that.
It's like our seasons have shifted a little.
We discussed that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what she thought too. That
Yeah.
it's, because of the heat.
Right. The shifting kind of the seasons. I don't know, but it's definitely happened. I mean, I've already made a first batch of salsa for my tomatoes because they were ready much earlier than ever before. So what I'm going to do, I know you're breaking that up in there, is I'm going to add about a half of an onion.
Okay.
I have probably a little bit more than that, so that's good.
Boy, this is like kind of browning really quickly.
Yeah, it is. We got it up pretty high. And then we're going to add 2 cloves of garlic. I probably have a little bit more than normal in here. So
Okay.
I like to add the garlic a little bit afterwards. I probably should have waited a little longer, but because sometimes garlic burns, but you're moving it fast. I'm not too concerned.
This is going quickly.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, I do have a can of cream and mushroom soup here, and I'm going to add to that probably about a half a cup of milk. We don't need a ton of milk in there. I just like to, add a little liquid to it so it's not as thick, because we are going to pour it over this, but you don't need a ton. I don't want it to be too watery. So I'm going to do that so that we're ready there.
Just a little bit of pink left here.
Just a little bit, yeah.
This is going really quickly.
Yeah, but we want to make sure that the onions get, a little translucent.
Get them a little clear.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I am going to season with some salt and pepper while you're doing that.
Okay.
We're going to season it again because we're putting green beans in this, and I use the unsalted green beans.
Oh, okay.
And we want them to have a little flavor. I
Okay.
would prefer unsalted so that I can put as much as I want in it. That's just how I am. And we're going to put about a tablespoon, and I'm eyeballing it because does it matter if it's a tablespoon or 2? It doesn't. But it's some Worcestershire, and this gives this a great flavor. I'm a big fan of Worcestershire sauce.
We always put Worcestershire sauce in when we're doing venison sloppy joes.
Oh, got to have Worcestershire in your sloppy joes.
That's awesome.
I love homemade sloppy joe sauce. And I do a venison one. Maybe that's a future show coming up. I don't know.
Okay.
We can talk about that later, But I have one, and I'm very, very partial to it.
With the guys that I go deer hunting with, we all take turns, making lunch or whatever, and that's the thing that I make for lunch.
For lunch is the sloppy joes.
Hugely popular.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really popular.
Well,
with all
I don't
the
know,
guys.
Duane. After those venison sliders we made, they may like those.
They would love that too.
That's something you can make ahead of time, and you could take.
That.
I mean, I'm sure if you watch our show, you might have seen the venison sliders we made a couple shows ago. Those are really, really good.
They were.
Nice little make ahead, because like sloppy joes, you can make ahead too. That looks good.
The onions are just getting just a little bit clear now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let it go a little bit longer, and then we will assemble the rest.
I think all the pink is gone from the venison here now, it looks like. Maybe just a tiny little bit here, just in the corner here and there. Okay.
Yep, just smash it up in there, Duane. Our oven's still heating, so we have time. It looks good. It smells good. That
smells great.
Yeah, that onion, garlic, Worcestershire mixture. Everyone. I'm not a big. I don't really think that venison is gamey, and I don't know if it's just that I'm used to it, but when you add things like this to it, it really, I mean, you don't know, most people wouldn't know this is venison, you know?
I think you're right.
I would never ever try to say that it was something else, because I'm not that kind of a person. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, that's just what I make and that's all I have. So if people, you know, care or not, but I always tell people, but I don't think you would know, because when you're adding these kinds of things to it,
I think you're right.
it really takes, if there's any little bit of gamey flavor in there, it takes it out.
So now this is all broken up into little bitty crumbs now.
I think it looks good, Duane. I think we could.
And the onions are, there's just a tiny little bit of white left, but they're almost
there.
Clear. They're almost totally clear. And when they're clear, that means they're all heated up and
yeah,
warmed
they're
up
ready to go. And we are going to cook this in the oven for about 35 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
So, you know, it's going to finish the cooking. And
Okay.
really, to be honest with you, I've left my tater tots out a little bit, so they're somewhat defrosted, but that's really what it is, to heat everything up together. So I did that for time saving, but you can put them on completely frozen.
I think that's.
Yeah, I think it's good.
That's
I think
good.
it's good. So I'm going to turn this off, and if you want to just, hold it up, and we're just going to put it in the pan. Yeah, and there's really no oil in here, so if you're using like beef, you would probably want to drain that, but we don't have to, which is always a bonus when you're using venison.
Okay.
That is not something you have to do. Look at that, there's no liquid in there.
That's just a,
That's probably from the
Yeah.
onions, really.
just a tiny little drop, one
Yeah.
little drop.
And I'm just going to spread it out. Ooh, that Worcestershire smells great. So we're just going to spread it out evenly in the pan
Okay.
or dish or whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to take about 2 cans of green
Okay.
beans. You can use
Okay.
regular green, it doesn't matter, but I just happen to have a can. These are salt-free. And we're just going to sprinkle them over the top. Just like that. I have a little bit of water in there, so. And I'm going to spread those out.
Okay.
I'm not sure I like that green bean, so I'm going to take it out. Oop, this one either. And then just put that over the top.
That had a little stem.
Just a little stem, yeah.
A little stem hanging off
Little
of it.
stem,
okay.
yeah. We don't want to bite into that.
Don't need a stem. Okay.
Don't eat the stems. So then I'm going to put a little more salt on here, because again, these are salt-free green beans, and they are a little bland, just a little. And I'm going to put some pepper on them too. Okay. And then I'm going to pour the cream of mushroom soup over that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And you see, I took some of the thickness out and I watered it down just a little bit with the milk, but it doesn't have to be, you know, fancy. I just wanted it to go a little further and not be so thick, because we want it to cover everything. A little spatula there. My left-handed spatula. For our viewers out there who watch us frequently, they know that's going to come, because we say it every time. And I'm just going to spread it out a little bit.
It already looks great.
Yeah. Like I said, this is easy. Typically, we have these ingredients in our homes. It's not difficult to do. It tastes great.
Almost always, if you open our freezer at our house, there's tater tots in there.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
almost always, yeah.
I'll tell you, we're not big with potatoes, but we do like to have our tater tots now and then. So, and then what we're going to do is just layer the
Layer them out, okay.
yeah, on top. You want to start on that end, and I'll go on this end.
Okay.
It's about 2 cups of tater tots. I just dumped a whole bunch out of a bag. We'll try to make them fit. If there's extra, maybe I'll have a snack in a little
Okay.
bit with tater tots. But yeah, you just cover the top. You get your potatoes, you got your beans, you got your meat, got some onion and garlic in there, lots of flavor. And then the end, we're gonna cover it in cheese.
Oh, okay.
Cheddar. Hopefully I took enough tater tots out. I'll just make them fit. Might have to spread them out. You should cover the whole thing, but it looks like I didn't take enough out, but that's okay. We'll just spread them out. That's good. We're good. And then let me get some cheese. They say about 2 cups of cheddar. Again, I'm gonna eyeball this because cheddar's cheddar. We just want to cover it. And like I said, this is gonna bake 35 to 45 minutes at 375.
Okay.
It's not gonna take long, and I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, I already can tell I'm gonna like it.
I know. I just like to make sure it's covered.
That's awesome looking, boy.
Yeah. Fill in those gaps. Huh. Look at that. It's going in the
Nice,
oven, 35,
nice.
45 minutes. We'll check it, make sure it's all melted, and we want it real warm. So, hey,
It's beeping, the oven's
it's
saying,
beeping.
"Hey, I'm ready."
That's
Okay.
right. It's perfect timing. So here it goes.
So Lisa, are we ready?
I believe so.
Ooh, yay.
All right.
Wow. Does that look something? Wow. That's impressive.
Oh, it's nice and hot. Okay.
Look at that.
Yep, so about 35, 40 minutes later.
Wow.
Oh. Hold it up so you can see it. It's bubbling in
that.
there.
Yeah.
Our favorite time, Duane,
That smells awesome.
venison tater tot casserole.
Yay. I bet that's pretty popular at your house.
It is very popular at my house. Oops. There you go. Yeah, very hot. So you don't want to burn yourself.
I'm gonna cool down just a little bit
Yep.
here. Oh,
What do you think?
wonderful.
I like this one. Love the, I don't get tater tots very often. So when I get to have them, I really enjoy that. Let me see.
That is super.
Thank you.
Well, Lisa, thank you for the awesome recipe.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Brenda Costa for the great hike on the Smock Riverwalk.
Yep.
And thank you to the folks at home for joining us. And we're going to talk to you next time. And boy, am I going to finish my casserole.
Me too.